Thank you so much. That's a good start. How are you doing, guys? I was not here yesterday, but I heard it was a very, very successful day. The title of our presentation is called From Zero to One and Above. So we want to show to you our way how we monetize our application. And we already got this. So I'm Aneta, this is Alex, and we'll be giving the show together so that you guys hear also different voices and have different perspectives. So mine is more, well, general, and Alex is very much deeply into programmatic and so on. So you guys can also ask any questions you want to have. Okay. This presentation is based on our experience with the company that we are currently working for, and it's UPDAY for Samsung. And I'll just give you a super brief overview on what is that so that you understand what kind of setup it is. So it's not a gaming application, it's a news application. I don't know if you heard about that. So it's basically pre-installed on Samsung devices in various countries, and the idea is to aggregate news from different sources. So basically, the idea to have that was... Wait, I have to breathe. Whew, okay. I started too quickly. Okay, so the idea was basically to have an answer to current news consumption trends. Because when you ask young people, what do they read? They most probably will not say, like, you know, I love The Guardian and that's what I do, what I read every day. They probably say, well, I read my news on Facebook or something, which is so sad if you come from a publishing company. But basically, this idea came up exactly like that. So basically, we aggregate news from different sources, from, you know, the Telegraph and whatever it is, okay? So that's the idea. What we do, we have two parts in our product. First of all, these are so-called top news, so the news chosen by the journalists, so something that people definitely need to know. And apart from that, we also ask the guys, so what are you actually interested in? You know, is it like architecture, politics, or whatever? And we give them a stream called My News, and that's always a very funny comparison because, you know, when you ask people what are your interests, it's always about super serious stuff like politics or whatever, and then what they actually read, I like, you know, entertaining things and so on. It's always a very funny thing to analyze. Okay, so that's basically the product, and UPDAY is pre-installed on Samsung devices, which is great because, you know, having a news application without distribution channel, I have no idea how to make it successful and how to actually get people over there if you do not want to be non-profitable for the next 10 years through investing in user acquisition and so on. So we have this great positioning that if the user swipes to the right on the Samsung device, this is how he gets to the application. And then the question is, okay, so how do we monetize? We monetize through advertising. So yeah, basically a very typical way if it comes to news. You know, everybody's dreaming about something like, you know, subscription-based models and so on, but apart from Financial Times, nobody's really successful, to be honest. So basically advertising is still like our cash cow. And basically the way it works is like the user swipes, they get some news, and then in between they have some advertising cards. All right, and the last information about the product, we are in 16 European countries, 25 million users, more than 25. So basically, this is where our challenge started, and this is how, what the story is if it comes to the monetization. Briefing again. Okay, cool. So, so the story is, we called it From Zero to One. And we want to first of all show to you how did we come to zero. And for me, the zero was like at least having the setup that everybody else has in order to maybe get profitability, maybe to get like an answer to agencies and advertising clients where they say, yeah, okay, it's a cool product. It's not like the best, it's not better than the others, but it's cool. So that will be the first part of the story. And then the second part will be about actually how to maximize this revenue. So basically this moment, like, don't give up. There are still so many things that you can do. So first thing, in order to get to the zero, to where everybody is, was about choosing the right technology partner. And when we started, we were really hoping that it would be like a long-time relationship when you connect to one partner. We started with Interactive, with AppNexus, and so on, hoping that, like, you know, that's going to be the perfect solution. You get really rich with that. And then we realized that it simply didn't work out. They were not, well, appropriate technologies for apps. So it was a huge thing for us actually to say, well, okay, it really doesn't work out, and it's so bad, because that's the foundation for everything. But basically what we recommend is like not being afraid of taking this decision in order to basically, take off the old technologies and switch to the right technology partner for advertising technology, because that may bring you much further. And we actually took these decisions pretty quickly, and I feel that it's one of the things that we can definitely recommend to you guys. The other thing was, again, regarding advertising, make sure that at least you have what other people have. That's a very simple rule. So again, we were talking to advertising partners, to agencies, like, okay, so what do you actually buy? So, some standard advertising formats, if it comes to native advertising, medium rectangle, whatever. Also, when you have a look a little bit further, maybe on Snapchat, maybe on Instagram, they have like all these fancy, let's say, stories and stuff. This is what we did, basically. So we said, first of all, we want to have a set of formats, something that everybody has. A little bit of fancy things, so, some foundation for maybe advertorials, stories, and stuff like that. And some formats that are, kind of very much compatible with the mobile app. So let's say Snap story formats or stuff like that. And that was actually pretty good, because basically, when you talk to the client, it was like, oh, okay, cool. This is exactly what we want. This is exactly what we need. You're not better than others, but it looks pretty. It's full screen, and so on. Another thing was that contributed to us going towards the zero was being present on all channels. So, I mean, you guys probably mostly focus on some kind of programmatic advertising. I'm not sure how important the direct stuff is for you. I think that was something basically, so, looking towards something more than only open marketplace monetization was definitely one of the success factors, because you had the opportunity to talk to the clients directly, to actually ask them, so, okay, what do you actually need, So more than the standard things. And having this offering for both channels was something that gave us opportunity of, a little bit differentiate in terms of the advertising monetization. And then the points 4 to 10 was basically invest in programmatic. So that was something that was, in the first year of our monetization strategy, the biggest success factor. So basically we built this mediation stack, mediation platform based on the right partner, which was Google Ad Manager. And then basically the idea was, okay, who are the partners, demand partners, that will contribute to increase of our revenue? So we integrated, for example, Facebook Audience Network, we integrated Yahoo Flurry, and that contributed obviously to increase of the pressure on the open auction, increase of the prices, and so on and so on. So that was one of the things that was paramount to our monetization strategy. And still not forgetting the importance of serving the direct clients, having some kind of direct relationship with the programmatic contact people in the agency, so maybe like private marketplaces and so on. So we started doing that in our first year, and that was the setup that finally brought us to profitability after first year, 2 years, or I think 1.5 maybe, of building up that technology, and that was great. And now Alex will take over and tell us how to go on and go to the one.
So when we went from defining who's our SSP, who's the ad server, we went on to create a much more sophisticated setup in terms of which partners do we integrate and how do we integrate them. So what you're looking at right now is the backbone of our mediation stack, which varies, of course, depending on the targeting in terms of countries or audiences or placements that you're going to look at inside your app. But common for all of them is you have fundamentally your SDK mediation, which consists of Facebook on multiple placements. You have Yahoo, and then you have a sort of header bidding technology coming from both Amazon and Google. And here we have integrated to secondary SSPs, being the Rubicon, OpenX, Index, and so on. Smarto as well, I think they're actually in the house. And on top of that, we have the private marketplace, which can compete on multiple price points, which is very beneficial, especially for retargeting purposes. But for all sorts of DSPs, they get multiple calls depending on the prices, so they can compete with the open auction that these SDKs provide us. On top of that, we have the preferred deals, which give a first look prior to the whole open auction and private auction, but it also gives a first look prior to all IO business we have going on and programmatic guaranteed simply by setting the price higher and having price priorities set up for all our deals. Moving from here, we need to understand what are we serving, who are we serving it for. So we need to identify our inventory first of all, and we need to identify our demand. And that comes from reports and data crunching on a daily basis. And my recommendation in this regard is to automate as much as you can, which is possible, or hire a ton of people who understands how to pull this data and how to crunch these numbers in the sense so you can understand your users to the degree that not only how many users do you have, but also their behavior, how do they engage with your app, the activity areas, meaning not just top news and my news, but each individual ad placement. So the more granular you can make this, the more granular you can understand your users and your app, the better you can actually price the inventory you're going to sell off, which is then one side of it. The other side of it will be to understand who are you selling it for. Coming from us, it was very much open auction. So based on the whole open auction, we had a lot of data on what is the prices we see among billions of impressions. But also, of course, that we could create certain placements that is beneficial for, let's say, direct partners or media agencies, but at different price levels. So they could either get the first look, the last look. Are they interested in low-value impressions because they want to compete on CPMs? Or are they more interested in high CTRs and viewability? It's important for us that we can actually provide both of it. So based on analyzing our app, we identified different tiers on how the performance is among our users and how they engage in different in advertisements on the app. And of course, interstitials is the one we all know, which have high engagement, high viewability. But we also identified in the stream of news, there's much higher engagement in the first ad placement compared to ad placement number 20, which is quite logical. But we could also identify certain clusters where we could say, okay, we can actually identify different tiers here where we can set different price rules towards different partners in order to optimize the yield. And based on these numbers, we could then go out and say, not only do we go out to open auction and say set CPM targets in terms of how much AdX wants to pay for it, so we can set a certain CPM target that maximize the prices we get from Google, but also release a certain amount of inventory so we can resell that at a lower price to certain backfill partners. But it also helped us to go out and sell this inventory to direct partners. So instead of just taking an average price and say for a PMP deal run of site, we actually wanted to go out and sell PMP deals looking, based on what is this partner looking for. Are they looking for cheap impressions? Okay, then maybe a PMP in tier 4 is very valuable. However, if you're looking for highly engaged users, then you have to pay a higher price, and in that way be more transparent towards the people actually buying our inventory. And this, in essence, is how we're going to sell our inventory more exclusively. So where you can see in November and December, we sell most of our inventory on the open auction. Slowly, we move towards releasing, making more and more inventory available through the open auction in January, where we integrate the UPDAY partnerships, and we integrated in November the 32480, meaning that we could have multiple creatives serving at the same spot. There was a huge increase in revenue because suddenly we got a lot more demand from our partners. In March and April, we implemented this CPM target and key value targeting, so we could sell specific placements to specific partners. And in May and July, we developed this whole private auction, private auction granularity. So we had private auctions targeting the same inventory, but at multiple price points, which in essence increased the win rate among our private auction partners, and in the end also increased the bid rate. So the effects you can see from here, not just in revenue, is that we maximized our average CPM by 10% of each of these changes. So that means with CPM target, we increased it with 10%. With the key value targeting, we increased it by 10%. With the whole inclusion of UPDAY partners to have a higher open auction, we increased it by 10%. And actually utilize our inventory to a much better degree today than we used to. And this is where you see the whole efficiency from how we sell our inventory today, that we basically maintain the same inventory level but a lower amount of impressions. And then you give it back to you.
Good. And a couple of other things regarding this knowledge regarding to our inventory. So basically, having this opportunity or this knowledge that on every single placement we have different performance. So, if it's somewhere at the beginning of the app or on the home, we have different viewability or click-through rates than later in the stream. And that allowed us to build completely different products, very customized products for the direct clients. So over here we have just a couple of examples. So what we did, we said, for example, we have a product called Click Booster that in which we guarantee a CPM of 1% because we know exactly where do we have to put it so that we guarantee that. Or if there are clients looking for, let's say, some low budget campaigns just to get the reach, just to get a couple of users without any specific performance goals, we put them basically later in the stream and call it, I don't know, budget product or something like that. And we defined 12 of them. With different values, and that's obviously something that is great for the customers because now we can simply serve any needs they have, any performance indicators they have. Another thing was, so again, you develop this kind of foundation in terms of your formats, and then the question is what next? Obviously standard formats are great for programmatic, but if you are talking to direct clients like Volkswagen or SEAT, they want specials. And obviously the reward for that are higher budgets. So something that we never stop doing is basically developing of our formats, trying things out, and they perform amazingly. So over here you've got examples of some quizzes that we did for SEAT. Obviously having these mobile rich media formats, you can kind of do everything. You just have to, have the skilled people, designers and programmers who can actually do that. We had, influencer campaigns with Volkswagen. They already had kind of influencer for their brand T-Cross or T-Rock. So basically what we did, we looked for a influencer agency and did the same with them. So something that we would recommend is never stop. Listen to your clients, listen to their needs, and keep developing your formats and your advertising offering with them. So, sometimes it's going to work out, sometimes not. But in most of the cases, it's going to be the possibility in order to get big budgets of the most relevant clients, of the biggest clients. And last thing that we would mention would be go into partnerships, develop the product as well for advertising. So that's, of course, a little bit the guys from our product or the journalists that we work with. It's we should drive that, not you guys from advertising, or from monetization team. But, well, I would say, why not? It does make sense to dare and develop your product and push the guys to maybe develop some editorial content to that. And what we did, we had, for example, some cooperation with Bonial. Actually, it's running just right now. And we said, just for special occasions in the year, we are going to develop a set of deals. So let's say if it's a barbecue season or Black Friday, and there will be some kind of journalistic content saying this is everything that your girlfriend wants to get for St. Valentine's Day, and then basically the guys, our cooperation partners, deliver products to that. So it's something, again, it has a value to the users. It does match to the product in general, so to a journalistic product, but it's still something else, something additional in order to get, to boost your revenue. And something that we have just launched 2 weeks ago is a football channel. So that was developed completely in order to serve the demand of the betting partners, sport betting partners. So we basically launched this product to give them possibility of placing their demand over there. And again, that's these are activities that move you towards very big bunches of budgets of the advertisers. That's it. If you do that, you win. You stay profitable with a great margin. And that's all we wanted to tell you. Thank you so much.